So 2013, that's it. You're gonna get a bike this year. Nobody can talk you out of it. Well, what should you get? Who knows? You ever rode a bike before? You know how to shift a bunch of gears? These are things you gotta ask yourself. I'll start out by telling you how I started. Started out just like most people who ride bikes nowadays. Started out on a dirt bike. Buddy had a dirt bike. He had a CR, or he had a Suzuki RM 125. Started out riding that. Learned how to use a clutch. I had to get my own bike. I bought a 1986 Honda XR250 R, 4-stroke. Back then they didn't have a whole lot of power. 4-strokes weren't like they are now. They were kind of enduro bike. Nobody wanted those kind of bikes, so I picked it up pretty cheap. Rode that for a while. My uncle had a CR 250 Honda. That thing was fast. Going from that 4-stroke 250 to that 2-stroke 250, night and day. Needless to say, by this time I knew how to ride a bike. So I turned 16 and I drove cars all the first year. The second year I was 17, I figured I want a bike. So I go out and I buy a Honda Interceptor 500. That was an awesome bike, and that thing was fast at the time. Wow, love that bike. Got rid of that because that's when the whole super sport bikes were really making a strong push, and I seen them, and I thought they were awesome. So I bought a 600 CBR F2. 1992. Then that was fun for about 6 months. Got bored with that. Wasn't fast enough. Got rid of that. Ended up getting a ZX11, which is a great bike. Don't be scared to buy an older, bigger bike. That bike was just a pleasure to ride. I mean, comfortable, fast. It had everything. Nobody at that time, none of my friends wanted to ride anymore. We were all getting kind of old. So it was kind of boring to have that bike at that time because couldn't get any of my friends to ride anymore. And, you know, so I got rid of that bike. And I haven't had a bike in probably 4 years. And now you see about the Yamaha R1. Just because I'm getting back on a bike. Say fuck everybody else. Gotta ride. But now if you started out riding dirt bikes like I did, I would say go ahead and get you a 600. I don't, or something of that nature. I don't see why you'd spend $5,000 on a Ninja 250 or 300 or whatever they're selling nowadays to ride it for 4 months and realize that you're going to get bored with it. Then have to sell it, lose a couple $1,000s in the process, and then buy a bigger bike. I say go ahead, get a 600. Because you'll be more than happy with a 600 nowadays. Back in my days, a 600 had about 85 horsepower, I think is what my CBR 600 had. It was like 85 horsepower. That ain't shit. The new 600 nowadays has like 125, so that's a whole lot of difference. I mean, these newer 600s are going to be plenty of bike for anybody. And, don't be scared to get an older bike if you want a bigger bike. If you think that you have to have a 1000 and you have experience riding like dirt bikes and you can shift gears and you're comfortable, get an older 1000 if that's what you have to do, because they don't have the horsepower like the newer 1000s do, and hell, it's still 1000. So That's all I got to say about that right now. So I just think about it, but ask yourself, you know, are you ready for all the, if you're brand new to riding, you gotta ask yourself if you're ready for all the near-death experiences you're about to have, because believe me, you're gonna have some. And I mean, I don't know, my first couple of years riding, you know, I had more fucking near-death experiences than I care to count. People pulling out in front of you, people turning left in front of you is probably the worst thing. I never had problems on the highway. I always thought highway driving was probably one of the safest drivings, because you can kind of tell if somebody's gonna jump lanes. But when you get in town, you see that car pull up to that stop sign, and you're about to go through, you might as well count on that motherfucker pulling out in front of you. Or if you're going down the road and somebody's gonna turn left, if you get lucky enough to see them put their blinker on, you better expect them to turn left in front of you. And shit like that. I mean, it is terrible. You just won't believe it. So you gotta ask yourself if you're ready for all that shit. If you're strong enough for all that, then you're gonna love riding. Nah. Man, I wish the weather would break in Michigan so I could start doing these vlogs. But, here's what it is, Michigan weather sucks.